Okay, we have a green box. We have a live counter ticking up. Go and assume that means we are live. That means welcome back to the Storytime Network. It is the Paradox Hour podcast, and in light of the upcoming Monday being Valentine's Day, we're once again talking about romance shit. And today it is love polygons and complicated relationships.
So literally romance shit.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to point out once right here at the start that the vast majority of what people think are love triangles are not love triangles. They are love corners, and more often than not, a woman is getting cornered in by two guys.
That's like 90% of YA.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of the thing with many quote unquote common love, what do you call it? Constellations. Because like most typical anime harems, for example, are not particularly complex or complicated. They are basically star-shaped.
Yeah.
Has a
Yeah.
bad protagonist in the middle, and all the love interests are arranged around him and more or less don't interact.
The better ones have actual interactions between the competing love interests, but like the worst ones have no interactions whatsoever.
But even when they have interactions, it's usually just more or less interactions focused on that particular point in time where they interact. Like the relationship between two love interests in a harem will rarely change from being what they are, love rivals, whatever that means in the context of the story.
I mean, the only really exception I can think of off the top of my head to that is quintessential quintuplets, because all of the girls interested in the guy are sisters, so they already have a pre-existing relationship with each
Yeah,
other.
that's definitely a different setup in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what I mean, and that's what I kind of find interesting about the topic of like complicated love. Like, what is complicated? It can be complicated. It can be complicated without having a lot of people. Like, say, if you put the star-shaped harem next to Superman and Lois Lane, or Clark Kent and Lois Lane, which one is more
Oh yes,
emotionally complicated? Probably the one with only two people in it.
yes, the two-person love triangle.
Yeah,
As
exactly, and that's a true love triangle. and
yes,
and I mean, in a way, that's more complex than having 57 characters be interested in one guy, but having no real interaction.
yep. I mean, if you want the absolute king of the romantic interactions with the alter ego thing, uh, I'm not super familiar with the show, but apparently Miraculous Ladybug is just so deep into that there are four different ship names for each of the different
Yes,
pairings
I
that
have.
happen.
I've seen the first season and I think parts of the second before I fell off because it was just interesting to have a show that is not Japanese, just be a magical girl show. Like that rarely happens. But
Yeah,
anyway, yes,
but yeah, no.
they are playing that field to the full.
Apparently, it's just such an obscenely crazy love situation that there are literally different ship names for every single possible configuration of that
Of
one
the same
of
two
those
people.
two
Yes.
people.
Yep.
It is
That's
ridiculous
just
and
again like
hilarious.
and also emotionally genuinely like that's genuinely emotionally complex. Not in a way that any normal person can do anything with, because how do you relate to that? But just yeah, it has emotional complexity because in some way, shape, or form, there's two people who have to deal with that if that is to
Hmm.
happen.
I have no idea how long the will they or won't they thing has been going on with that show.
I don't know. As I said, I fell off after like a season, so no
Mm.
clue if that's still going on or if it's
By all
resolved or if
indications
it
I've
will
seen on social media, it is, but
or if it even will resolve. Like it's not it's a type of show where they don't really have to resolve it in any way because it's aimed at that at that
Mm-hmm.
young teen audience where often romance just doesn't get resolved, where it's more about the like where it's not really a plot point, where it's more about the emotional investment of the being in love than the actual than actual structural romance.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, but again, like things get resolved even if they don't get resolved in the actual text. Like fan works are a thing.
Oh
And
god, we should talk about fan fiction and all the crazy shit. Mel, this is your wheelhouse more than mine.
It is my
someday there's gonna be
wheelhouse.
a fan fiction episode, and I'm just gonna nitpick everything.
uh,
No, but I mean, in this kind of topic, in this kind of conversation, fan works do have a place because obviously, for many shows or many types of media in general, that's where the relationships get resolved because it's just like let's
Oh yeah.
say even something like let's say Naruto, where ostensibly the relationships get resolved because you have the last few chapters where everyone is neatly paired up. Like just the work Naruto is not at all equipped to actually resolve these relationships. It just tells you that is a relationship now. They are now married. They now have a child. Okay, fine. I don't give a shit. Um,
I
but
think they
the actual emotional labor invested in these relationships doesn't get depicted at all because again
the,
it's just not that kind of story. It's not bad, it's just not what it is.
the only one that does do that with Naruto is they did have that finale movie that did resolve the main romance, but like it was it was literally relegated to a post manga movie.
Yeah,
So
and I mean it's Naruto is by far neither the worst nor the only offender here. It's just a thing
hmm
where media have a romance subplot again more for the more to have a running thing than to actually work around romance, and then they end, so they have to resolve the romance somehow. So
hmm
they do it in the most hand wavy way, where they just and these people are now married. These people now have a child, or these
yeah, that,
people have moved on,
now
which is
ish.
also fine.
yeah.
Um,
That's the thing. These you bring up Naruto. The one that came to mind for me was Dragon Ball. Uh,
Same, yeah.
both of these, had the romance
But
at the
with
end of a particular arc, and then
yeah,
did a in Dragon Ball it was what was it 4 or 5 year time skip.
oh
In
yes,
Naruto it was dozen or so years to
more.
let
Yeah,
baby Boruto grow up. But it was they always time skip to and now the kids are here and they're
yeah,
going to be the
exactly,
ones
exactly.
taking over. They don't actually show the romance involved between these two characters
Yeah,
to the point where certainly you look at Goku and Chi Chi in Z and you go, why are they together?
yeah. I mean, the added bonus is obviously that Akira Toriyama just is completely incapable of writing women. To
Yeah.
like, I mean,
The only women
not that
he
Naruto
writes
is much
I
better,
remotely.
was I was gonna say
but
Kishimoto's not that much better.
yeah, but in Dragon Ball, women just disappear. Like,
Yeah,
I think
Paul
the only real
Lodge.
exceptions to that are maybe Dell and 18, and
even
that's
Videl
it.
disappears.
Uh, yeah,
18
that's
He's
more
is maybe
super.
the
problem.
18 is maybe the only exception, and it's a
Yeah,
very light exception to the whole. Oh, female character is now a baby mama and doesn't actually get involved in the
yeah.
fights of the main plot.
I mean, Bulma's only an exception because she basically didn't take part in the action
Yeah,
beforehand either. She was always the. But that is not
Oh,
today's
she was
topic.
always a gadget person.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
But
good on her for being written as like always the smart, capable scientist and never
oh,
really
absolutely,
straying from that. That is
absolutely.
pretty much the one continually solid example of Toriyama writing a woman. But like, yeah,
It's
meanwhile,
we're
yeah.
really damning Toriyama with hate praise.
what does
But
Kishimoto
anyway,
have?
Yes.
well,
I mean,
you
if we want to, maybe meander back on topic, we can keep with Naruto and discuss the horrific mess that was the Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura deal.
oh my god. My God.
The fact
that's-
that the fandom is still quite frankly at war over that, despite the fact that it has been resolved canonically.
Yeah. I mean, that doesn't stop shippers. It never has. But
Oh, it'll never
Never
stop
stop
shippers.
shippers.
There's a reason why Zutara is still a fucking thing.
God, why will they not shut up about that?
it's
Jesus.
true. They are the wrongest of the wrong. I hope everyone hears this particular episode of the podcast. But no, like that's the thing. Like that is, without wanting to praise that aspect of Naruto because it's not good, but that is technically an emotionally complex relationship triangle. Not a love triangle, because, or if you ask the shippers, maybe it is. I don't care what Naruto and Sasuke
To be fair,
have to.
Naruto's and Sasuke's first kiss is with each other.
That is
It
true.
might actually be
Um,
considered a proper love triangle.
Yeah.
Depending
But
on how. Yeah.
yeah, but either way, the point stands. Like, there is emotional complexity there. It was obviously completely squandered by the author, who didn't know what the fuck to do with it, and therefore just decided to ignore it. But it's there, if you want to put it there. And again, but that kind of speaks to my point from earlier. In a work equipped to tackle these issues, and even including Shimoto's inability to write that, like even if he were capable of doing that, maybe he is, I don't know. That's just not the venue to do it. Like Naruto is not a series where you do that.
No, Naruto's a battle shonen.
Exactly. So that's completely fine that it isn't addressed there. But if you wanted to address it, and that's where fanworks might come in, like there's meat there. Like that's a complex relationship between three characters who do have a complicated and complex relationship in the triangle to each other, all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it was resolved horribly.
Oh, yeah.
I
Very
don't
little
think
of
it
it
was
is
even
true.
resolved horribly. It was just, I mean, the romantic aspect was just resolved lazily more
I mean,
than anything else.
yeah, resolved as in we were given a solution to it. And if you want to be in the mathematical spectrum, then a solution is what romance requires.
I also kind of call bullshit on Kishimoto saying that Hinata was always going to be Naruto's love interest.
Fuck off.
Yeah, I'm calling bullshit too, dude.
Like, I am not at all involved in the Naruto shipping wars. I don't give a shit about Naruto. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
don't
yeah,
care enough about the series.
Same, but to be involved in it, you have to actually care, and we don't.
Yeah, exactly. but narratively, the Hinata romance comes from nowhere. Like Naruto and Hinata do not interact until they suddenly do for no reason. But
I mean,
I will give
there
him
is-
props for not letting the Tsundere win, but still.
I mean,
yeah,
there's...
I mean that's fine. Like Naruto and Sakura shouldn't be a thing because they also don't interact. Because again, writing women, kind of hard. Let's not do it. So just keep them out of the story.
I mean,
But anyway,
based on the interactions that we actually get to see in Naruto, neither of the two main relationships would last.
No, absolutely not. And like again, I'm fine with that. I'm not here to nitpick the romantic writing capabilities of the battle shonen. It's not there's little point in that because it's just not where you do that. But
I mean, you know, credit where it's due. Twin Star Exorcist managed to pull it off really well, I think. And it manages to pull off a really well done love triangle for part of it.
There are obviously exceptions, but I think. Let me put it like this: when I read a battle shonen,
you aren't going to it for romance, yeah.
And even if I do, I do not even if I super get into the romance, I couldn't say that I have in any I've read. But even if I did, I just wouldn't expect it to be dealt with in any way beyond what like Naruto or Dragon Ball do. Like I don't expect there to be any resolution at the end of my hero regarding anyone. Maybe some characters will end up paired up, but there will be no there will be
Nothing,
no
no romance is going to be really focused
Yeah.
on in Hero Aka.
Exactly. Just because I don't expect. Again, it's not the venue to do that.
I mean, what
But if
always
you-
makes me laugh is people who are focused on shipping in One Piece in particular, because Oda has gone out of his
Oda
way to
basically
say
said
that he does
no.
not do romance.
Yeah. Which is completely fair. Like, if you don't want to deal with that, don't deal with that, right? Better not do it than do it badly, because
I mean,
badly
yeah,
done romance will piss off more people than the absence of romance.
I absolutely
Certainly.
admire Oda in that he knows he wouldn't be good at writing romance, and so he doesn't bother.
Yeah.
Like,
And honestly,
he
even if you're
has
good at it,
done romance a couple times, and it's actually been pretty entertaining, if nothing else. It's like,
honestly,
he
even if
could
you're
do it
good
if
at
he
it,
wanted to, but he chooses not to, and I appreciate that because
yeah.
holy shit, have so many other Battle Shonen authors fucked it up so badly.
Especially in anime. If you can't keep your hands off it and just let shipping be shipping, then you're good.
But we should keep to the topic of
But let's
of
try
love
to actually
triangles.
talk about the topic. Yeah.
So just very quickly, I forgot that squaring the love triangle was a trope that existed and is used.
God. Oh God. Most definitely in Twilight.
Yeah, it happened in Twilight. I mean, I didn't know because Twilight. But yeah, that's fucking weird. The
So to explain, squaring the love triangle is when a love triangle ends with two of the members getting together, and then they have a kid, and the leftover person hooks up with a kid. It is exactly as gross as you think it is.
I don't know why anyone would. I mean, I don't know shit about Twilight, but like, aren't they all immortal? So maybe it's a little less weird. But
No,
it's
like
still
the other love
weird.
interest for Bella falls in love with her baby when she's a baby.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah,
And
it's like
it's
imprint
no.
or some bullshit.
And
It's gross. It's really gross.
And apparently it's suggested that the attraction the dude felt for main girl came from his destiny to be the soulmate of the kid.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's real weird. It's real fucking weird.
Why? So. Why?
An excellent question. I don't have the answers for you, Lore.
Yeah, I mean, who does?
I want to know who the first person to do this, what they were thinking.
The thing I have in general about love triangles or any other geometric shape is that they are kind of self-defeating to me. Because if I were to write a romance involving more than two people who I don't expect to end up in like a polycule or whatever, like where I expect a romance between two people being the end game, then I have two options. Either I make both possible endgame options equally appealing, which just means at that point about half the fan base is not going to go home happy.
Yep.
And I mean, I can do that. It's like authors are not obliged to make their fans happy, but I think my point still stands. Like I'm kind of working against myself there.
Exactly. The other option is, of course, make one choice obvious.
Make one option very obviously endgame. By which point, why even ask the question, right?
Yep. Exactly.
Because if I know option 2 can't and won't happen, then why not write my story about something that's actually interesting?
I mean, you could also take the third option that God, what was it? I don't even remember its fucking name now. I should. We never learn, and just write endings where each
that was
person
one
wins.
of my favorite That was one of my favorite cop-outs I've ever seen.
It's a
I have not
complete.
read any of
Yeah.
the ending. I
It's-
don't give a
It's
shit,
the
but
visual novel cop
it's just
out. Visual novel
it's just
approach.
such a cop-out to
It's a
go.
complete cop out, and just like whoever you want to win wins. If you
Yeah.
choose who you want to win, read their ending. None of the rest of them exist to you. It's fine.
But to be clear, that illustrates the point, right? Because that also means the story up to that point doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because none of what happened before, obviously, was intended to work towards this ending. Because the ending is essentially a choose your own ending.
Mm-hmm.
So there cannot
Well,
be any
Well, you
thematic.
can argue that like the stuff that happened before was like set up all the possible love interests to make each of the branches believable. But that like, yeah,
Yeah, but even
I can
then,
kind
like, even if you say, I don't know how many endings were there, 3, 4.
there were 5 because there were 5 love interests. I
But
skipped the
that's
last one
still
because I had no interest in the character.
that still comes down to like 20% are actually the part you care about, and the
Yeah.
rest of the manga is kind of just there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I mean with self-defeating, right? Like you can't.
To be
Yeah, please.
completely fair, I have seen some love dodecahedron bullshit botched so much worse by
Of
so many
course, I
other
mean
series.
that's I didn't mean to imply that like it's always terrible or anything. It's, again, there's stuff where that is basically the entire plot, and some of it even works.
Look, we can talk about School Days all the time, and that clusterfuck of a show.
I can't talk about School Days. I have kept away from that shit.
Oh, I've never watched it either, but I know of it.
I
I know
mean, who
enough to
doesn't?
comment on it.
If you've been in this space, then you know about School Days. Even
School
it's one
Days'
of these
ending
things.
is infamous for a good reason.
I mean, yeah. But yeah, but again, the point stands. Like, essentially, if you set out to do any type of romantic geometric shape, then you're kind of setting yourself up to fail, at least to a part of the fandom.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though we never learned solution, pissed off fans because it was a cop out. A very obvious one of that.
Some fans got more pissed off than others. Others were just happy that their girl wins
of
after
course.
the first branch turned out to be very controversial.
Of course, but if I set out to make most of the fandom happy, and like I'm not gonna do that by writing enough endings to. I mean, maybe I am, but I shouldn't.
There's also poly resolution to these various geometric shapes.
Yes.
I don't think
Yes.
that gets brought up enough.
No,
I mean,
it's not the solution that's picked
rare.
nearly often enough.
And I think there are more than enough shows where that would genuinely work.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Especially
there was one
ones
that ended a couple of years. I think that people were actually pissed that it didn't go with the poly ending because it would have worked so much better than the character choosing a single love interest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is unfortunate. The author just coughed out.
Well,
Which is the case way too often.
like, again, in a way, that's the only thing you can do when you do a love triangle, is cop out in some way.
I mean, we should also mention the fact that sometimes an author doesn't actually write a love triangle, and then the fandom creates one.
Of course.
Oh yeah.
But at that point, like, what can you do as an? It's kind of just you can't stop. The
No,
fandom
I
from
mean at that point the author cannot win. I mean,
yeah.
to bring it back to Avatar.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, at that point, honestly, I'm sure some people would love if they could, but you can't stop shipping. It will happen. Even bad shipping. That's
Yeah.
uncomfortable, not good.
Oh God, let's not even get started on the toxic shipping.
No, we'll do that another time.
We could have a whole episode dedicated to just shipping,
Oh
honestly.
my
Mm-hmm.
God. But why? Why would we do that to ourselves?
I mean, a good hour of that would just be me talking about why my ships are the best.
I mean,
Starring heavily would,
I,
of course, be Todoroki.
mhm. I mean, there are some fun love triangles that, like the bisexual love triangle, that more authors should do because, like,
it
that
should actually
an
do, not
actual
do
fucking
like
love.
as a cop out or as a fucking joke or whatever.
Yeah, but no, like having like it be a legitimate love triangle where where at least one of the characters involved is bi makes it an actual love triangle,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to just being like
Oh,
two characters vying for the same character's affection and all that
well,
shit.
let's say makes it a possible love triangle. You still need the author to have the balls to write a character who's genuinely attracted to both persons and
Mm-hmm.
kind of needs to make a choice.
Mm.
I think I think I mean it's not a bisexual one, but I think Toradora did a pretty good job of doing the everyone is kind of involved with everyone thing.
Oh yeah, I
Because again,
haven't
like
watched.
it wasn't it's not all romance by no means. Most relationships are just essentially friends in that, but it has the emotional backup to the actual romance because like you have in the end five people who just care about each other, and two of these people end up with each other, but because that's five close knit people who care about each other, of course everyone has to deal with this and what this means for them, and that's how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
I think Kokoro Connect did something similar,
I wouldn't
but
know.
that one involved more supernatural shenaniganry, like body swapping and stuff, which was admittedly entertaining.
Hmm. I mean, body swapping in romance is not the worst thing. It's if you do it right, it can be
I mean,
fun.
speaking of which, having body swapping involved in a romance series is a guaranteed way to complicate relationships in an also spectacular way.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it also just opens doors to issues that you usually don't really think about. Like,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Trying to think of a good
what to
example of body swap romance thing going on. Oh, your name,
Yeah,
obviously.
I was gonna say
Mm.
your name, which is not a triangle in any way, of course, but it's the obvious one.
Yep.
And I mean,
I
in
mean,
a way, it does open all the weird consent and stuff issues. You're like, I guess I'll just accept this, not think about it too much because it's not the story about that.
mm,
I
yeah,
mean,
no,
yeah,
your name.
a lot of the time when these body swap shenanigans happen, the people involved are weirdly nonchalant about it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, as a reader or watcher or whatever, body swapping is kind of like time travel. You kind of can't think about it. You kind of just have to take it for what
Mm.
it is and move on.
Well, not necessarily. I would say like if the story is just like revolving around that as like the central plot element, if you dwell on it too much, it'll just break the plot and
Yeah,
make the whole thing unenjoyable. But if
yeah,
you just go along for the ride, you're in for a much more fun time.
yeah. That's what I mean. Like same with time travel. You kind of just go, yeah, sure, I'll accept it for what it is in this context and not ask any question I'm obviously not meant to ask here.
Mm.
The good old MST 3K mantra.
Yeah.
Don't think too much about it.
Um,
So, when are we gonna, you know, bring up domestic girlfriend or talk
oh
about
God,
God.
fucking,
domestic girlfriend?
I didn't want to talk about.
No, we're talking about it. We have to. It is literally like it covers both points in the title. It is a love It is a love shape, and it is incredibly complicated.
And also incredibly not okay, from what I hear.
The ending is one of the biggest clusterfuck endings I have ever read in any series ever, and I will never touch the series again.
Wonderful. Enlighten me, I haven't watched or read it.
Okay, so the base premise is the main character is in love with his teacher, obviously because societal
Already
reasons
great.
and other understandable reasons. That's not going to pan out. So he winds up sleeping with this other girl who wants to lose her virginity to see what it's like, and also because she thinks it's going to make her more mature, having known what sex is like. And it turns
Great
out
reason.
that his father is remarrying, and it turns out that his new stepsisters are his teacher and the girl he just slept with.
What the fuck?
Yep,
Great.
and that's just the beginning of the series.
Wonderful. Sounds like nothing could go wrong with that.
I mean, yeah, that is literally just the base premise. That is what you have to accept, like before going in.
Wonderful. I don't know why
Yeah.
people think anime is weird.
Yes, well, this is basically like soap opera in anime/manga form.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it.
That's why it's so addictive to so many people.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I mean, that's why love triangles are addictive, because they're a very easy way to keep engagement going as long as you can.
They're a
draw it
very
out, right?
easy source of drama.
Yeah.
Yeah, as for the series itself, basically the first 50 chapters basically builds up to the protagonist hooking up with his teacher Hina, and they eventually bang, but someone finds out that they did that, and she's forced to leave the school. Why she wasn't fired or sent to jail, I don't fucking know.
Well, but when
But
she's
that's
not a
like
teacher
a
anymore, at least
crime.
they can keep banging, I guess.
No, she's away as as basically the sole consequence of banging her students. Like she's sent to a different location or whatever. She's transferred, and it's like she should have lost her teaching license at the very least, if not been arrested.
You might call that unfortunately realistic, but anyway.
Yeah, but it's still bullshit.
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
like Hina. I think she's probably the worst character in the series, aside from the actual asshole
I mean,
antagonist. But
frankly, it
that's
doesn't
not
sound like
really by
anyone
high
is
bar.
that great a person in the series, but I'll take it.
But yeah, after Hina leaves, the main character Natsuo eventually builds up into a relationship with the other girl in the love triangle, Rui, who is his other
Who's
stepsister, and
also a
they eventually,
stepsister. It's important. Yes.
yeah, they start going steady for like 100 odd chapters, break up briefly, get back together, and they
I hope they
eventually
end married with children.
no,
Oh, wonderful.
he gets her pregnant
Oh,
on accident.
great.
They plan to get
Well, I
married.
mean, I guess that can happen. Like at least, no, well, whatever.
Hina came back at some point. There, that I don't remember the exact explanation. She, quote unquote, wants them to be happy. Then there's this random ass subplot that's introduced like 10 or so chapters from the end of the series, where this paparazzi asshole finds out about Hina and Natsuo's relationship, tries to publicize it because
Ah, yes.
Natsuo's
One of
author or
these
something.
paparazzi who follow teachers all day. They are annoying.
Yes. Hina metaphorically cockblocks him, and he gets fired because he's a shitty journalist and was also trying to do blackmail shit.
Oh,
And he then he is so pissed he tries to run over Rui. Hina gets run over instead and is put into a coma.
oh no. Man, that one hits all the boxes. Sounds
And
amazing.
then, and fucking then, it gets even more complicated. This is all spoilers, but I don't fucking care at this point.
Really is soap opera shit. Like, I thought you were just saying that because it's like easy
No,
emotional buy-in, but it really is soap opera shit.
no. I skipped over a whole bunch of soap opera shenanigery, including another girl falling in love with
Well,
Natsuo
of
and getting
course.
rejected
Yeah, well, unfortunate.
and all that shit. Um, and then, while Hina is comatose, Natsuo finds out that she's still in love with him and always was, and he winds up breaking up with his fiancée, who is carrying his child, to take care
Oh
of
my god.
comatose ex-girlfriend slash ex-teacher, and after 5 years, she wakes up from her coma because he slipped a ring onto her finger.
Well, that's
And then
better
he
better
gets
than what
married to his
Shinji
fucking
slipped Asuka.
teacher.
That is better than what Shinji slipped Asuka.
Just saying.
It is so fucking awful as an ending.
It's
It's
honestly,
just,
I mean, I'm never gonna interact with that series in any way, shape, or form, but it kind of sounds amazing, in the way like the
it
room is
is,
amazing.
it is such an awful, awful clusterfuck.
It sounds like they
I
took very deliberate steps to make terrible decisions at every turn, and that is to be
yes.
applauded.
Honestly, if the series had ended 10 chapters earlier and it was just Hina and Natsuo, Rui and Natsuo getting married and having kids and whatnot, it'd be like, okay, that's fine. That it was ups and downs,
But
but the
no.
series made sense. But no, have to throw a curveball in last fucking volume and just end everything in a massive clusterfuck. So
Well,
yeah, the
someone
ending of
has
the
to be
series is
brave,
awful.
make the choices other people aren't equipped to make. Yeah, that does sound like a very complicated romance situation, though I'm not sure I would still call that romance and not just like bullshit.
Oh, it's 100% bullshit. Pure, unmitigated, unrefined bullshit.
I mean, I think digging deep into old anime from the before times, um, I think another, well, I don't want to sound like I'm praising this particular turn, but let's say interesting twist on the formula would be like the Ranma thing, where
Oh yeah, Ranma, all the gender bender antics.
yeah, which at least makes the basic love triangle shape thing, whatever, more interesting because like just the involved characters have different relationships to themselves, basically. Not in that way.
Mm-hmm.
God damn it, this topic is hard to talk about.
You brought up Ranma. That's on you, dude.
Yeah, I know. No, but I think like again, it's I don't think Ranma is particularly good or anything, even though I do have a lot of nostalgia for it, just because it was that time of my life where basically everything that's new is also good. Um, but yeah, as I said, it's just a more interesting twist on the formula than just doing what basically Rumiko Takahashi did in everything else she wrote.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not fair to her, really. Like, she wrote lots of stuff that isn't really about romance at all. But anyway. Uh, but yeah, it's just it's again an interesting twist with because you have this added layer of people. Do people know about the gender bender thing? Then you have people who are like into both of the main characters in different incarnations, basically. That makes it more interesting than just your typical. Well, that guy after chapter 200, this guy can pick between these three girls. Because no matter what he does up until then, they will all want to jump on his dick anyway,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you mean Nisekoi?
for example. I mean,
I always just
honestly, that's
example
that's the
that
thing
jumps
with
to mind
yeah,
most
but
quickly.
that's basically the thing with most shows of that type. Because
Yes, most
again,
harem rom-coms.
yeah, because again, is generally like that isn't universally true, but generally the author didn't pick who will be the final love interest at the beginning, and therefore they have to write as if it could be anyone, and therefore nothing that matters actually, nothing that happens actually matters because, well, it could be anyone.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, some of them do clearly have someone that they wanted to do from the
Yeah.
beginning, but at the same time, others very clearly did not. Like,
I mean,
it was.
to give an example of a show that everyone rightfully hates, and I also just have a lot of nostalgia for, even though I'm fully aware of how bad it is. Uh, Love Hina very clearly communicates how it's going to end,
Oh,
and it
yeah, no,
basically
it's gonna
ends
end with the
exactly,
asshole Tsundere
yeah,
landing.
and it ends exactly the way you expect it to, and that's all it has to be. Like it doesn't try to obfuscate that. Yes, there are romantic rivals, but it never really, like, when I back in the day, which is at this point like 20 years ago or something, a little less than that, but a few years ago, uh, there was never any doubt in my mind, even when the romantic rivals were introduced, that they were anything other but romantic rivals. That, like, they were obviously never going to be endgame. And again, Lavina, certainly not a great show, but or manga for that matter. But on that front, it does the thing very well. It doesn't do the thing well, but it does the thing where it just tells you, yes, the story does have love triangle bullshit, but this one's gonna win, and you don't have to worry about it. Ship whatever you want, but this one's gonna win, and it never strays
Hmm.
from that. And of course, it doesn't really work because of the whole tsundere and whatever the fuck he has going on thing, but at least that aspect of it works, where it just says, listen, it's this kind of manga, but also this is how it's gonna happen.
So I'm trying to think of. Well, I mean, we can either focus more on uh, traditional love triangles, or we can focus on some polyamorous stuff as well.
I mean, go crazy.
Because I mean, Jack, you watched Girlfriend whenever it aired last year, didn't you?
Yes. That one is like polyamory 101 for idiots.
Still
It's
polyamory,
not
which is better than most anime.
Yay.
true. At times it does wind up treating it like a love triangle, but at the same time, like there is very clearly like an intentionality to the characters and their three-way relationship. It certainly doesn't
Mhm.
hurt that one of the girls is strongly implied to be bi. Like very, very strongly implied to be bi.
Mm.
As in she says that the other girl is so cute that she's actually jealous and would want to marry her. So it's not even really ambiguous.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like yeah, that show is basically just polyamory for dummies.
Hmm.
Yeah, well,
That
it's
makes
a
sense.
fun
I
enough.
mean,
Got to start somewhere.
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean there
I
is
mean,
another
even
series that is a lot more entertaining and crazy and
Would that be Hundred
buck fucking
Girlfriends?
wild. 100 Girlfriends,
I
yes.
was about to bring that one up. Yes.
I love it just because of the sheer absurdity of the ever growing polyamorous relationship. And yes, several of the girls in the relationship are also bi.
good for them. I mean, while we're on it, even it's not that old, but even Toradora had some of that going on. Not in a not in a huge way, but it is strongly implied that who does end up not being the main girl had more interest in the main girl than the main guy in the end.
Mm.
But I mean, it's in that anime way where it's like they are important to each other, but what does that mean? Does that mean romance? Does that necessarily imply anything? No, it doesn't. They could just be friends.
For God's
But
sake,
if you,
shipper. For God's sake, shippers. They could just be friends. Please leave it
yes,
alone.
Not
but
everything has about characters wanting to bang.
yeah, I mean, even romance doesn't have to be about characters wanting to bang.
Hmm.
But Toradora was very much, if you wanted to read it that way, it was very easy to, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was intentional.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I would never be surprised if anything is intentional with that in anime, because they are very good at implying things.
Mm-hmm. Very good at implying things, bad at actually following up on it.
Well, that
Mm-hmm.
sounds like you need people to be into that, and conservative society and all that.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, there are some examples of polyamorous relationships in various series. Like, fucking Demon Slayer has one of the Hashira have 3 wives, which is hilarious. Because apparently it
Yeah,
caused a
but
minor controversy when it came out in the anime.
it's generally treated like either as an oddity or as like a side thing that just isn't really like in a way it's not meant to be questioned, but not questioned in a way like why is this, but more it's not even to be taken seriously as a thing people do. It's more like this person's thing.
Mm-hmm.
I can
You know
kind of
what I
see
mean?
that. I mean, one of the, I guess you could call it a joke in Dodgeball, which aged surprisingly well for a early 2000s comedy movie, for the most part, was just like, it turns out that the character that everyone thought was a lesbian turned out to actually be bisexual, had a girlfriend, and they both decide, hey, the main character is also pretty cool. Let's add him to our relationship and to have a throuple relationship, and
Yeah.
that's how they end the movie, and that is honestly kind of hilarious. That it just like comes right out of nowhere. It's like, oh shit, there's gonna be a love triangle. Nope, all of them get together. It's like,
Nope,
huh,
it just ends. Yeah, I mean, why not, right?
yeah, no, honestly, like Dodgeball is a very weird movie, but a very fun movie.
Dodgeball's a great movie. I don't know what you're talking about.
I love the movie. I
It
legitimately love them.
it has Rip Torn saying he likes drinking urine.
Rip Torn was one of the funniest parts of the movie.
Mm.
Shame about him.
Oh well.
I mean, there are so
Yeah,
many good actors in that like
yeah,
I've gone on to recognize in other stuff. I mean, you've got fucking Alan Tudyk just there being a pirate.
yeah. The
Um,
name's Steve. Yar.
Stephen Root, who I eventually recognized as Boyle's dad in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and uh, don't remember his actor's name. Um,
Justin Long.
no, not Justin Long. It was Joel Moore. Joel Moore, that's it. Who plays a character on Bones.
Yeah, there. Dodgeball is just a very interesting movie to think
Mm,
about. But we're tangenting a little bit.
yeah. Um, I mean,
But yeah,
we can talk about
like,
love triangles. I mean, Beastars comes pretty fucking close to an actual love triangle.
are you going to look at me straight in the eyes and tell me that there is nothing going on between Louis?
There is nothing explicit. I personally believe that there is a ridiculous amount of sexual tension there, and
We
it
all do.
quickly becomes some weird love square, I guess, when you add Juno in.
It's like such a tangled, complicated relationship because, like, if you go in with the assumption that everyone's straight, you're gonna feel like you're missing something.
Let me try and
Kind
draw
of
it
like
out on
real
a
life.
piece of paper.
Like, the one interaction I saw between Haru and Juno in the second season was like, there is a lot of homoerotic tension in this scene, and that's not even getting into Legoshi and Lewis's deal.
I haven't seen Beastars, but from what I see online, I was under the impression that basically everyone fucks in that show.
Pretty much.
Kinda. everyone metaphorically fucks or literally fucks.
Yes.
There's a lot of metaphorical fucking in that show. A lot of it.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes that's all you can do.
Mm-hmm.
What else is there? I'm just going through the anime list at the moment.
I was gonna say I can't just go through my anime list. The question is, what is interesting to talk about? Like, I've had my phases. I've gone.
Oh yeah,
through...
the fruits basket. That was an interesting one because obviously,
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
good old fuck bucket.
obviously you think it starts. You think it's gonna be Kyo, Yuki, and Toru, and then suddenly Yuki goes, "Wait, no, I think of Toru as my mum," and then suddenly it's Momiji taking his place.
And then that lasts for literally like a few episodes before that.
It lasts for about maybe a week before Kyo basically nuts up and actually starts going for Toru.
Mm-hmm. Momiji never had a chance. Let's be real.
No, he didn't. Poor Momiji.
Ooh, I've found one that's kind of terrible. Also, I mean, most of these are, but just bad for its.
Find me an actually good love triangle that isn't Beastars.
I mean, I probably can, not in my list, but I probably can. But no, this one, I don't know. Have either of you seen Full Metal Panic?
I've seen the first season of it.
Yeah, great. Then you didn't have the stupid fucking love triangle. Because I don't know if you're aware of
Tessa and what's her face? I don't remember most of the names.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, but again, the first season is pretty straight up. Sosuke and Kaname are gonna be a thing. Like that's the story. But then they made season 2, and season 2 was not really based on the light novels.
Oh,
Season
Fumofu,
2,
right?
yeah,
Yeah, that
because
was all
season 2
gags.
is basically a parody of itself.
Mm-hmm.
And as such, it super leans into that. Like suddenly, white-haired girl, what's her name? Tessa, I think,
Tessa, yeah.
becomes super. Like it does become a genuine. I mean, again, not trying love corner, as we said, and like that's terrible. Just the actual rest of the show, like the 2 actual real seasons they made after that, are absolutely not equipped to handle that at all because it's not in the story.
Yeah. You know what's a really fun example of love triangle shenaniganry is Berserk.
Oh, I mean, fun is a word you can say, but I don't think it applies here.
I don't
No,
think
it
you
is
can.
not.
I don't think you can apply the word fun to Berserk in any way.
I was gonna say no one has any fun in Berserk, but that is obviously wrong. One person has fun in Berserk, and he did nothing wrong.
Look, Griffith did everything wrong, and the only thing he
Yes.
didn't deserve was getting tortured for a year.
I mean,
That was a lot, even for him.
yeah, but you know, he kind of made
He
up
did
for
do
it.
some really awful shit right after
Yes,
that.
yes. Uh, no, but yeah, that's definitely
That is
a
much more of a
shade.
love triangle than others.
Yeah, I mean, that's a genuine love triangle, exactly.
Yeah, because like you got Casca and Griffith, you got Casca and Guts, and you got this weird, toxic, codependent relationship between
Guts
and
and Griffith.
strongly homoerotic relationship between Guts and Griffith that never really crosses completely from subtext into text, but is on the very, very borderline.
I mean, I'm pretty sure Griffith wants to fuck Guts. I don't think Guts wants to fuck Griffith because
Oh,
by
yeah.
the time they are on good terms, Guts is way too innocent to want to fuck anyone.
Yeah.
Boy just needs
Well,
a
Guts
hug,
is
man.
way too committed to Casca at that point.
That too. That too. Uh, but no, that's a genuine love triangle, and it is in a good show. It's just not, good.
Berserk is a dark and deeply fucked up series. Let's be
Mhm.
I
real.
mean, yes, but that's the point, isn't it?
Hmm.
But other shows, Inuyasha, that apparently has
Inuyasha
one.
doesn't really have love triangles. I
Uh,
mean, it kind of has, but not.
Kagome, Kikyo, and Inuyasha.
Yeah, but that isn't. I mean, compared to what Takahashi did in other things, like compared to Ranma or something, I'm I'm honestly pretty sure all the romantic rival stuff is just in there because probably her editor said Ranma sold well, do more of that. Because none of it matters, like none of it
Yeah.
has any payoff. It's just
Mm.
there. Because we all know Inuyasha is a show and manga that's largely padding because
Mhm.
like
Hmm.
it's one of those. It's not better or worse for it, it's just what it is.
Mhm.
And the same goes for those. Like it's very, very obvious they are not going anywhere. It's very obvious they are just there to be there. And yeah. And they don't even like really make any interesting shapes because even the ones that technically happen concurrently don't really interact. Like, sure, there's some angsting on Kagome's part about what's going on with Inuyasha and stuff, but she never really interacts with the Inuyasha Kikyo thing, and he never really interacts with the Kagome Koga thing in a way that acknowledges either as romantic rivals. It's just because Koga's just an asshole, and everyone agrees, probably including him. And and Kagome never really sees Kikyo as a romantic rival, as more just this thing that consumes Inuyasha's life. And of course, that also impacts any romance they might have, but it's not really like it's not written as a love triangle. It's just written as another thing that this poor 15 or 50-year-old boy has to deal with. I don't know. Maybe I'm too nice to Inuyasha. It's not one of those. Like it was that era. Everyone, all of those, I have very much a lot of nostalgia for.
The good old nostalgia filter,
Mm.
yes.
Yeah, can't help it.
I mean, we've already discussed Naruto, but it didn't just have the main love triangle. It had many, many more.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Let's not get into it.
No, it's not worth it because
I mean,
most of them are just
again, the
nothing.
question, yeah, the question were any of them really interesting, and I don't
No.
think they were.
Kakashi,
Like
Rin,
the
and
most,
Obito, maybe. I don't know.
yeah, maybe I don't know. I'm gonna say the most interesting piece of romance in probably all of Naruto is probably Jiraiya and Tsunade for because
Hmm.
how it ended.
Tragically.
Because like honestly, that scene where he says goodbye to her before he goes up to die is probably one of the last good scenes in Naruto.
Yeah, yeah. I think the last like legitimately good scene before everything started going downhill was Naruto being celebrated for beating Pain, and everything after
Yeah,
that was just
I mean that was where the story could have
that's
legit
where the
ended
story
on a
peaks.
high note. Yeah,
Some people have differing opinions on that.
I mean I'm gonna say that's not really. I mean maybe that's where the story peaks, but there was already a very steep valley before that because of the resurrection shit. But anyway, we're not talking about
We're
Naruto.
not talking about Naruto. We have a roast of Naruto on our potential topics list, and
Yeah,
we will eventually schedule it in at some point. We'll
maybe I'll
do.
Oh, Mill, why don't you talk about the Harry Potter love triangle?
Oh fuck my.
Oh, you mean the one between fucking James, Lily, and fucking Snape?
Go for it.
Oh God, do I
Go
have
off.
to? I mean,
You made me talk about domestic girlfriends.
it's just like incredibly, incredibly, incredibly creepy because like I mean, first and foremost,
Well,
for the vast majority of their like time at school, like James is just like pestering Lily and acting like a fucking like schoolboy and pulling her pigtails type shit. And mostly, instead of actually doing it to her, he does it to Snape. Snape is in love with Lily because she is pretty much the only person who actually treats him, like, kindly. Which is sad up until the point where he joins the Nazis who want to kill her horribly.
I just realized I've forgotten most of Harry Potter.
Yeah! Then Snape calls her a slur, and so she, wipes her hands of him, which, fair enough considering he is at this point already, hanging around with and palling around with and making excuses for the Nazis.
Weird how J.K. Rowling excuses people who keep using slurs, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no! I mean, if we were gonna point out things that are weird, let me find it. I know I posted the tweet in the History Channel somewhere. Depends how far back it was.
Probably pretty far back because I don't think we had any Harry Potter related stuff recently.
Oh, here it is. Yeah. Well, first and foremost, do you remember that there is a website devoted to all things Harry Potter called Pottermore?
Yes, I do remember that.
Yes.
Yeah, they made they posted an article debating the pros and cons of house elf slavery.
Well, see,
What the fuck?
Listen, I'm not gonna act like the Harry Potter fandom is at all weird here because I have seen Shield Hero come out, so
Mm-hmm.
You apparently just have those people.
But I found a tweet talking about that. In reply to that, I then found a tweet that also brought up something very interesting. Do you remember at one point Rowling tried to claim Hermione was black?
Oh yes.
Or at the very least was non-committal?
Yeah, that I remember.
Mm-hmm.
So there is in fact a reading of Harry Potter where everyone tells the black student that she's being hysterical over literal chattel slavery.
Oh my god.
Yeah!
Harry Potter is so fucking terrible. It's hilarious how bad Harry Potter turned out to be.
It's just, that's such a series, just the more you think about it, the worse it gets. The worse it gets. It's just, like, so awful. But, yeah, and it's just...
kind of wonderful how, again, it's in a way, it's beautiful just how much of a clusterfuck Harry Potter turned out to be in the end.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's just the fact that, the narrative treats Snape as right for holding on to his complete obsession. This is not love. This is not romantic love. This is an obsession with Lily. Holding on to it for, 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
When the fact is, she, as I said, wiped her hands with him, rightfully, because he was hanging around with Nazis who wanted to kill her.
Well, but you see, also Snape then tortured her son emotionally. Like any good guy does.
Again, the fact that people excuse that is actually infuriating.
Terrible.
So infuriating. But no, we talked about Harry Potter for God, how long was it?
2 hours.
It was more than 2 hours. We went for longer than 2 hours.
I think it was like 2.5, 3 hours.
We went for nearly 4 hours, dude.
Fucking hell.
We went for 3 hours 48.
Going through my list, I found another terrible one. Once we're done with roasting Harry Potter some more.
No, we can move on from Harry Potter. I don't want to talk about Harry Potter. I mean, I could briefly mention the fact that obviously the fandom has this whole fucking boner for making Draco a good guy. So there's always the love triangle there.
Yeah, but I'm not. But that is one thing I'm not gonna hold against the actual work because again, that's shipping. Like that's Zutara. You can't control that shit.
I'm not holding against the work. I'm holding against the fandom. Also, also the portion of the fandom that ships Snape with any of the school children.
But
What
honestly,
the
if
fuck is
I...
wrong with those people?
Or ships Voldemort with any of the school children.
Oh, that sounds sexy. That's right up my alley. Who doesn't want some hot snake man on underage children?
I mean,
Jeez.
what I will say is that some of my favorite fan fictions have had Harry in polyamorous relationships. So
Mm. But again, I find it hard to hold shipping against, even against fandoms and especially against works, because you cannot control what people will ship. You can try, but you cannot. You just can't do it.
and at the end of the day, as long as they're not actually hurting anyone, then they're free to do whatever
Yeah, I
the fuck they
mean,
want.
exactly.
As much as I might complain about people who ship Snape and Harry together, they're as long
In
as
the
I
end,
as long as I
I'm
can
just not gonna read that shit.
as long as I can ignore it, as long as nobody
Yeah.
makes me actually read it, fine. Do whatever the
That's
fuck you want. Just
That's what's
don't
so
include
true
me in it, okay?
Yeah, exactly. But no, the other terrible one I found on my list. I wonder if anyone has seen this. It's called Mashiro Hiro Symphony, or The Color of Lovers, and it's not. I don't think it's particularly well known or popular or anything. It's from 2011 apparently. I don't know. I watched it somewhere 2015, 2016 or something. Um, when that friend I mentioned earlier before we started got into anime, and we basically just told each other what we were watching and the other one would check it out. Um, and it is, of course, a visual novel adaptation.
Naturally.
And as such, it is obviously a harem. Like, that's fine. I don't expect that to be great or anything. That's just a thing. But what's great about it, what is truly outrageously wonderful about it, is that after 6 episodes, they essentially switched the routes they were adapting. So basically,
Look.
they did a lot of setup and then paid off different setup.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, this completely fucks over any kind of romance they were trying to write, because all the emotional setup they do, that character basically disappears, and they introduce another character halfway that you're now supposed to care about.
Wow.
And I mean that obviously fits today's topic, because again, it's a harem and it has the whole love triangle shit going on, but it's one of the worst I've ever seen. Like, it's already not very good in how it's written, but it's also far from being the worst thing I've ever seen on that front. But it might be the anime I hate most, just because after half the runtime, it's just, yeah, that shit we made you care about. Fuck that.
What anime do I hate most? It's probably
And how does it relate to today's topic?
I mean, Devilman Crybaby had a whole thing. Uh, that had probably had a love triangle of sorts between the
In a
two main
way,
boys and the main girl who ended up getting killed for no reason.
yeah, but as I said, the main girl, yeah, I was gonna say the main girl was just there to be killed, so I don't know if she counts.
I mean,
Yeah.
the main boy was interested in her, so
Yeah, but she kind of got fridged. I mean, there was no
Kind of.
reason she had to die, except so main boy could be sad about it.
Didn't everyone die
I'm
in
not.
that show?
I mean, yes.
I mean, yeah,
I mean, it was literally a rocks fall, everybody dies ending. But
yeah.
I'm not defending the writing
Doesn't
the
sound
writing of
totally
Devilman Crybaby. I
satisfying.
should point out. I'm just pointing out
No,
that
no,
it does in
I'm
fact have a love triangle. It's just a bad one.
yeah, it's very bad. I mean, as we have demonstrated, most of them are.
I never
What?
really got far enough into Space Fish Waifus to say whether there was a love triangle. I just really.
I don't think anyone did, and we can all be happy for it.
I mean, it's not even that I necessarily hate it. It's more that I'm just so impressed at how viciously it undercuts its own point.
That is still one of my favorite screenshots of things.
The fact that it's supposed to be some sort of female empowerment anime, and it just completely cuts it off at the knees in like the first 2 episodes.
Don't all empowered females dream of being at home and cooking? Oh, it's so bad.
Oh god, space official waifus is just such a fucking trip.
Okay, and another one that is honestly probably not particularly interesting, but maybe still bears talking about is My Next Life as a Villainess.
Oh, Baccarina.
Yes. Just
As
because
dense as a black hole.
yeah, it's a romantic black hole that yeah it kind of is. No, but I think that one could conceivably go the bisexual option.
It could.
After
That would be nice.
after season one, I haven't seen season two because I didn't really care and I have not read the books or anything. I only know season one.
Two, unfortunately, has the issue of not just like of most of the guy love interests being very uncomfortably forceful with Katarina.
Oh fuck.
The only ones who aren't are Alan and Nicole.
I mean, here's the thing. It's my take on Alan is that he's not actually romantically in love with her. Like she is just she is the first person who actually treated him normally and made him feel good about himself, and so he cares about her in that way. Nicole is just kind of dense as well, kind of an idiot, and also sort of a bit too noble.
Yes.
Yeah,
Which is unfortunate because her actual fiance is a piece of shit.
Yeah, I mean what I do think is which is weird for a show like that is that in this one the protagonist is actually interesting. Because like she has the most affection for what's her name? I don't fucking remember
Maria.
any of the names. Yes, Maria. And she doesn't question that at all. Like she gets into the rest of the romances as well, but
I mean,
but
it is
again like
it is slightly weird that the medieval female characters seem more, at least seem to realize
But
that
I mean-
a gay romantic relationship is an option more than the character with the modern brain.
I mean,
To
yeah,
be fair,
but
the medieval characters are
fiction,
from
like-
a constructed fantasy world.
yeah. I mean, it's the I'm in love with the villainous thing where it's just like, okay, they're accepting or at least they are aware and whatever. And Katarina's thing is not that she doesn't get that the gay option is an option. She just doesn't understand that people are romantically interested in her because she's about as dense as a rock.
I think you're underselling her business. I think it's
Yeah.
across their levels.
Yeah, probably.
I mean,
But
don't-
no,
ob- obvious, don't-
as
obvious-
I
obviously-
was saying,
I mean, you can go.
yeah, as I was saying, like usually in shows like these, the protagonist is fairly uninteresting because they have to be a blank slate. So again, not only like I could make this stupid self-deprecating so the anime fanboy can self-project, but that's not even the point. The point is, if you don't know who the main character ends up with, you can't really characterize the main character a lot, right?
I can kind of see that.
Because if you write him to have a lot of chemistry with someone, then
Make it to give the game away.
exactly, because at that point, oh, he has more in common with her than with her, so why would we care about this option? So he has to be a blank slate because by the end you must be able to say, yeah, that kind of tracks.
I mean, the
Um,
obvious solution is to give him chemistry with, is to give the blank slate protagonist chemistry with both girls, but that would require too much writing skill.
Yeah, just make him a blank slate so he doesn't so he has chemistry with everyone on account of existing. But no, and that is definitely not the case with Katarina. Like she does have chemistry with everyone, but it's genuine chemistry. Like her, the relationships she has to these people, and I'm using relationship in the sense of the word here, like not romantic relationship, just how she relates to these people.
Yes.
Is very genuine in all cases, but also very different. Like how she feels about these people is genuinely rooted in the people, and that's
I mean,
that's not normal for shows like these.
yeah. I mean, certainly in the in the relationships that develop in the first season, they do feel very organic because pretty much all but the one with Maria happens or starts when they're children and develops as they grow.
Yes.
And then with Maria again, it is a. I would argue that it's not even that quick of a situation. Again, there is elements of a family situation there, and of Katarina being one of the few people who actually is friends with her.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can't say as much for the main one that develops in the second season because that really does just come out of nowhere.
As I said, I don't know the second season at all. I haven't even.
Oh, are you talking about Sora?
Yes.
Yeah.
The one that literally happens in like a day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what I do want to ask Jack, considering you have read the light novels for Baccarina, right?
Not extensively. I'm not past the anime.
Okay, fair enough then. Okay, then I will reshape it into a hope then that it will examine the roots of Katarina's denseness and maybe give an actual character reason for it and not just the fact that she's an idiot. Maybe it's something related to self-esteem issues. I don't fucking know, but just something, please. Be serious for once. Like,
please have their reason.
Please just treat some of these quite serious emotional issues with some seriousness and not just treat them like jokes.
That sounds like work.
It does sound like work, and it frustrates me that so many authors aren't willing to put it in. I mean, God, what was it? I swear there was a show that I watched in the last year or two that I got really annoyed about it doing this. Of it actually, like... Oh, it was fucking Last Dungeon Boonies.
Right.
Where it could have examined the main character's imposter syndrome, but instead used it for jokes.
Great.
Yeah.
That's great. That's just wonderful.
But that is beside the point. I'm also... So, obviously, my absolute least favorite anime/manga series... I can't say it's my least favorite anime series because I've not watched the anime past like the first episode, but obviously Attack on Titan, which
that's fun.
Couldn't say anything about.
Yeah, I mean there was the developings of a love triangle between Eren, Mikasa, and Jean at one point, and then it sort of just went away.
Yeah. Yeah, it did.
But I mean, spoilers for the end of the manga. So, if you're an anime only, stop listening. I mean, if you're an Attack on Titan anime only watcher, I have no idea why you're still watching us when we so clearly despise it. But I'm not sure if this was ever actually confirmed, but Isayama did do like some kind of epilogue that was also just as hated as the actual ending, and it seemed to imply that Mikasa did actually get with Jean in the end.
I don't think the epilogue ever identified who specifically she hooked up with.
No, but a lot of eagle-eyed readers said that basically looks like Jean.
He is the most plausible individual for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, just going through the anime list. Madoka Magica had one apparently.
That did not end well for anyone involved, especially Sayaka.
Did much in Madoka end well for anyone?
Surprisingly, yes, but that's the very end of the series, and I won't go into detail on that since you haven't watched it.
Yeah. We've got Evangelion.
I mean, again, kind of, but not really.
Evangelion has the. You know what? I really like. One of my favorite love triangle tropes is though the Korosami, or two people are both vying for one other person, and at some point they're like, you know what? Screw this. Let's date each other instead.
Hmm.
It eventually, and because of Korra and Asami in Legend of Korra, it became colloquially referred to on the internet as being Korosami.
Shouldn't it be called being Marcoed? I don't know.
No, because Korra and Asami both individually dated Mako at one point.
Yeah, but I mean that's what you say. It's like you got Marcoed. You got done to you what got done to whatever. We don't have to discuss the terminology. I know what you mean.
We don't
I
talk
mean,
about Mako.
I've not
I mean-
I've not watched Legend of Korra, but Marco seems like the type to see this happen and go. Certainly from my perspective, seems like the type to see this, or is that his brother? Might be his brother who would be the type to see this and try and get in on that.
Marco's
Oh, no, that's
Marco's
definitely
reaction
fine.
was probably, you know what? Thank God I don't have to deal with this shit anymore because I have no idea what I was doing with either of them.
There was a whole bit in one of the later episodes of the series where that was dunking on Mako and the whole love triangle shenaniganry.
Mm-hmm.
Rightfully so. I mean,
Yeah.
we're gonna talk about Legend of Korra someday, and there I'm gonna do my I am going to be the guy who defends basically everything about Legend of Korra because I
No,
think
I
it
am
is
definitely on the positive
defensible.
side for that series.
And I will also defend that their choices that led them there, but it is weird and it's kind of an unfortunate casualty of the production of that show. That was fucked beyond measure.
I mean, yeah, we'll talk about the production issues of the show when we get
Yeah.
to actually talking about the show in general.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I do like it when it happens so rarely, but it is still funny to see like, oh hey, these two characters are pursuing one other character. It's like, okay, you know what? Screw this guy. We're gonna hook up with each other instead.
Yeah. I mean, which is not technically what happens. Like they don't go
No,
screw Marco.
no, it's not. But it's still funny.
But it's still it's implied.
Yes.
Returning to the anime world, ReZero.
Ah, yes. The infamous I Love Amelia. I won't read into that
I haven't
too much
seen this
unless you want spoilers, Mil.
No. Holy fucking shit!
But
I've just read the one for school days. Holy
can lighten the
shit!
class?
Okay, I'm going to read this verbatim from the
Haven't you seen the graphic?
I've seen the graphic, but this is just focusing on the love
think
triangle.
It wasn't real? Did you think it wasn't like?
No. This is the anime version of the love triangle.
Yeah, I mean it's not any less fuck, bro. I don't know. Read it.
So,
Starts off with boy meets girl.
boy possibly gets girl A, who he is dating, pregnant, which causes him to become an absolute jerkass and start sleeping around. Girl A murders boy, and then girl B, who boy was dating but never got around to breaking up with, stringing her along as he dates girl A and B. Finds the body and confronts and murders girl A. Girl B then decapitates the boy's corpse, takes the head, and relaxes on a nice boat with it.
Ah, yes, the nice boat meme.
Yeah, of course.
What the fuck?
I mean that's what School Days is and was kind of famous for. That it starts as this fairly boilerplate romance drama and then escalates into murder and beheading.
Jesus
It escalates
Christ.
into an absolute clusterfuck, and
Yeah.
it became a meme because of it.
And I think that also it was originally a light novel, and that did that.
No,
mood
it was
shit
a visual
much
novel.
Visual
Or,
novel.
that's what I meant. Yeah, visual novel.
They adapted one of
It
the
just-
bad ends for the visual novel instead of going with one of the good ends.
Exactly. They just went with the worst ending or something, which is great.
Look, I knew that it was fucked up. I just didn't know the details.
No, it's
Yes.
it's fucked up in a very specific way.
A very hilariously specific way.
Yeah. Oh, another one from my list that's definitely in the complicated part would be Utina.
Utena, yes.
It's because, complicated.
Look, you know what? If we do want to bring up love triangles, we do have to bring up one of the most iconic love triangles in the history of media, which is the classic Archie, Betty, Veronica relationship,
Of course.
and all of the variations on it, including the absolute hilariously fucked up clusterfuck
Oh
that is
no.
Riverdale.
I knew this was gonna happen.
Oh god. Go ahead.
Look, I only watched the first season of that show, but apparently it
I
got
only
so
watched the
fucking
Eye
bizarre.
Patch Wolf video and I'm completely fucking done with it.
I haven't done any of this, and I just know that it's bad.
Seeing iPatch Wolf's occasional updates on Twitter for the current state of Riverdale is hilarious. Because apparently Archie gets murdered at some point, and then he comes back again later. What is that show? But yeah, no, the whole Betty and Veronica thing is just such an iconic love triangle device, or love corner device, as Mill would like to say. That's kind of just inspired a trend of similar relationship dynamics
I mean, to an
throughout.
extent, it's basically. I mean, I'm sure it didn't invent it, but it's basically the
It
most.
codified it. It definitely codified it.
It's basically the most basic application of the love triangle, love corner. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But yeah, it is probably one of the most famous love triangles in media. Aside, of course, from the ever iconic YA love triangle shenaniganry. Do we want to talk about those? I feel like we have to.
I can't really say much to them, honestly.
Well, there's the Hunger Games, obviously.
Oh god, Hunger Games. Oh.
Which didn't even feel like a love triangle in hindsight.
It's been so long since I actually read the Hunger Games books, so I honestly don't remember. I read them as a teenager, when they were getting big.
Yeah. I never bothered rereading them. But I read them when I was in, I think, middle school or high school. Or probably across those years. Anyways, yeah, no, like the whole Katniss Gale Peeta thing is like, in hindsight, it doesn't really seem like much of a triangle because Katniss very consistently only ever treats Gale as like a close friend. But the movies played up the love triangle aspect so much. And it's like, what was just like, there may be something there, but it's mostly one-sided. It became like, oh, who will she choose? Will it be the handsome boy next door, or will it be the handsome bad boy next door? And it's like, come on, this is some marketing bullshit. It's marketing bullshit in universe, but it's also marketing bullshit out of it.
But I mean that is the Betty and Veronica formula, isn't it?
It is. It is.
You also have to make sure not to forget the handsome part. Every member of the triangle has to be incredibly good looking.
Yeah, that is all YA. That is YA in a nutshell. Like, I have yet to read a YA series, especially YA dystopia series, that does not have a love triangle in it.
It's basically a requirement of the genre.
Easy
now.
pages.
Yeah.
Because, like, it basically writes itself. You don't even have to flesh it out. You can just have literally the main character say, "Ooh, I'm interested in this one, but I might also be interested in this one," and do that over like 5 pages.
Look, it's just become such a tired cliche of YA stuff over the past decade and a half that I've just like grown bored of it.
I mean, it's not even
read YA much more.
It's not just the fact that it's always included. It's the fact that more often than not, like, it just is badly done.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's very rarely well written. Like part
Like
of the reason why I
neither of the
still
love
have some. Oh, go
interests are
ahead.
actually interesting people or have good relationships with the main character.
Yeah, either one or both of them is toxic
Yeah.
usually.
So I mean that's the issue more than it being overused, though it being overused does not help in any way, shape or form. I'm trying to remember the YA books that I actually read. Um,
Honestly, I mean, I haven't read explicit YA in quite a bit, but I don't
Same,
remember that
actually.
many love triangles actually, because
I
it
mean
was usually
it's something that's appeared more since like I would
yeah,
say
probably
most of us grew up out of being young adults.
yeah, of
Hmm.
course.
I mostly just read adult fantasy at this point.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like,
that's the thing. The period between, or the period from me going from kids books to me going to adult fiction was quite small, so there wasn't much of an opportunity for young adult fiction to fit in there.
yeah. No, and I think the thing about like I mean, young adult is I don't want to get into a whole other thing here, but young adult is to me kind of a difficult label because it like the lines between what actually is YA and what is just adult fantasy or sci-fi or whatever
Mm.
is not that clear. Like it you can either easily sell the same book at both if you market it right.
Hmm.
Um, but I think what I would call explicit YA, so explicitly marketed to like 14 to 20-year-olds or whatever.
Hmm.
Uh, as I remember it, which is has been quite a bit ago, but as I remember it, was not that much about like it was more about the pining and the it wasn't so much about the will they or won't they, and if you're not about that, then you can't really do a love triangle, right?
I mean that is something I just thought of and I was going to bring up when we got to the end of this particular discussion. Does it count as a love triangle if there is one particular couple that is, you know, all but canonized as the, you know, as the romantic couple, and then there's just, you know, every so often before they actually get together, one of the characters dates somebody else. Does that actually
Not
count as a love triangle per se?
I
not
mean, I would say
necessarily.
it only
It
really
depends on how
counts.
serious the relationship is treated.
Yeah, it also like if there is an like a temporal intersection of romantic feelings. Like if A and B date, but A ends up with C, that isn't really a love triangle
Mm.
because there's no friction between C and B, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
but
like
if
most of
A and
sitcoms
B
that
date,
have like strong
and
romantic subplots.
yeah, exactly. If you do that, then every single sitcom is full of love triangles because that's basically the only kind of drama they do.
Yeah,
Um, so I would say it probably doesn't count. Of course, there will be exceptions, but
naturally.
generally, probably not.
Hmm.
Hmm. I mean, one thing I do kind of want to bring up if we are talking, well, we are on books and if we are talking about complicated romance.
Go ahead.
Uh, Jack, you know what I'm talking about when I say the locked tomb, baby.
Oh hell yes!
Oh
I
boy.
just caught up on
Yep.
that. Look, the
I mean,
whole
that's
Gideon Harrow and extended and extensions from that thing is
whatever
just
the fuck is going on.
look. I imagine it'll just only get more complicated across the next couple books, and I am
Yeah,
delighted
probably.
that goes.
So am I. I
Oh
mean,
god.
I think yeah, fuck it. I'm just gonna get into spoilers. I just assume. I mean, I know you read it. Uh, but I genuinely think the scene in the second book where Gideon talks to Ianthe about that
Yeah.
And like that's a good scene, and that basically explains why the romance in this particular book series is complicated. Because Gideon basically says, "Yeah, Harrow is not interested in you, but she's also not interested in me. She has other priorities,
Look, I
and
find it hilarious that Beyonce is trying to get with Harrow, and her only competition is two dead chicks, and she's still losing.
and she's still losing to both of them."
Okay, that sounds
Look, it's a
interesting.
look, it's a book series about necromancers. Of course, that kind of shit's gonna get involved at some point.
It's also just very complicated.
It's so complicated. It's hilarious.
All
And
of
that's not
these
even
people
getting
need
into
to
all the
sit down
stuff
and
with the
have a good
lictors.
like yeah, all of these people need to sit down and have a good talk, but they don't have time because the world is unfortunately about to end.
Also, there are no therapists available.
Nope.
You think that
You,
you think that 10,000 years of existing would give the lictors time to get therapy, but no.
or to be really good therapists, but unfortunately they're all assholes.
They're all idiots, assholes, or some combination thereof.
Yes. But no,
Percy is more, yeah.
yeah. But I wanted to bring it up just because it is another one of these very complicated romance constructions that essentially has a very limited number of people. Because even
Yeah.
if you count all the dead people, it's like 4 people. But boy, is it complicated.
Not to mention all the shifts and relationships across the series.
Yeah, of course.
Like, by the end,
But
at the start of the first book, Gideon and Harrow absolutely despise each other. At the end of the second book, I don't see Harrow loving maybe anyone else besides Gideon.
yeah, I mean, we will talk about the Locked Tomb one day, and boy, there a lot to get into, not only
Oh,
there,
we are
but
going to have so
to
much
all
to
of the books.
unpack.
Um, but yeah, that's kind of the thing. Like, there's a lot of movement in how the relationships could or could not end up happening.
Mm-hmm.
That makes it very interesting.
Look, The Locked Tomb is a very fun and interesting series, and I do encourage people to read it just because of how incredibly well written it is. Also,
Yeah,
there is much foreshadowing in the series. Holy shit.
yeah. I mean, there's again, I don't want to get into it. We're gonna get into it at some point, but it's probably some of the best world building I've ever read.
Oh, definitely. Definitely some of the best sci-fi world building, in my opinion.
Yeah, easily.
It's like
But
it's a very interesting science fantasy series, I feel.
yep, I would
But
agree
yeah,
with that.
I mean,
Yeah.
staying on literature, Jack, would you consider from the Dresden Files there to be a love triangle between Harry, Susan, and Murphy?
Yes. I was gonna say, you better not be bringing up who I think. Okay, good.
Who,
Yeah,
who,
Harry, Susan,
who
and
were you
Murphy
worried I
definitely
was
love triangle.
bringing up?
Spoiler character.
Oh, her. Yeah.
Yes.
Interesting. Oh, there's also one with Molly as well.
Yeah, that was also who I was worried about. But yeah, there's also Kincaid in the equation, but I'm pretty sure it was just a little fling between him and Murphy. Nothing serious there.
Yeah. Romance, especially in long book series, gets real complicated
Yep.
when you actually try and plot out those relationships as a reader. It gets complicated.
Look, every single long-running series that has romance in it should have a love chart going on. Just like a running love chart at the back of each volume or something.
That said, Codex
Should be
Codex Alera does very well at actually setting up the main relationships in the first book, basically, and then sticking to them all the way through.
I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. There's no love triangle shenaniganry there.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of high fantasy books, Wheel of Time has some polyamor going on in one of the main relationships. Going any deeper into that would be spoilers.
I mean, I'm not planning on reading The Wheel of Time anytime soon.
Nope.
I don't blame you. It's 14 long books.
Too late to get into it.
Far too
Yeah,
late.
I don't blame any of you.
So you might as well discuss it. We can
Okay,
spoil.
fine.
We can spoil a warning. If you don't want to
Okay.
if you don't want to hear spoilers about Wheel of Time, mute now. They'll probably only be about 5 minutes.
So yeah, the main character basically has angst over being attracted to 3 different women, and each of them is to varying degrees close to at least one of the other two. And they're just like, we all like you, and we all are really all along with each other. Why not just all of us go out in a relationship? And it's like they basically have to sit the guy down and say, look, none of us has an issue with this. You're the one who has an issue with this. We all want this. On. Just throw a fucking spine, man. It's like, okay, fine, let's do this. It really does come down to that.
Yeah.
Which I do find hilarious, because in a lot of other series you'd find it the other way around, where the guy is trying to campaign for that. But no. All the women are for it.
Yeah. Oh, if we're talking about literature love triangles, do we want to talk about the ones in A Song of Ice and Fire / Game of Thrones?
Oh god. Oh man, that's so fucked up. So yeah, really every time we see a love triangle involving major political players, it ends in disaster in A Song of Ice and
I
Fire.
was gonna say, does anything that happens in those books count as love?
I mean, we've got the one that results in a coup, and two of the participants dead. We've got the one that results in the squaring of the love triangle.
Yeah.
And we've got the one that results in incest and the death of one of the participants.
Yep.
Technically.
And it's not one of the incest ones.
Mm-hmm. So the one that gets squared is the one with
Littlefinger, yes.
Littlefinger, Catelyn Stark, and
Lysa Tully.
Yeah. Oh god, I mean, that whole thing gets really complicated because there's because Catelyn is
married, yeah.
Catelyn is initially in love with Brandon Stark, which is Ned's older brother.
Then he dies.
And Catelyn marries Ned, who she grows to love.
This is all in the backstory, by the way.
Meanwhile, of course, Littlefinger is there, in love, selling it up basically, and in love in inverted commas with Catelyn. Ned dies. Oh wait, no.
Littlefinger decided to be an asshole.
Littlefinger also, in the backstory, gets with Catelyn's younger sister, Lysa, who is fairly mentally ill.
Yeah.
Littlefinger tries to contrive ways to get with Catelyn, and then she's killed. So Littlefinger then starts going after Catelyn's teenage daughter.
Who was 13 at the time, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's all very gross.
I mean, like it matters to characters like this. I mean, let's be real. In Harry Potter, if Harry was a girl, how do you think Snape would have reacted?
Oh my fucking
Very
god.
grossly.
Like, obviously, Rowling would never write that because she considers Snape to be a paragon. But, based on his actual in-universe behavior, if Harry had been born a girl and looked like Lily, how do you think he would have reacted? Yeah!
Has anyone ever noticed that the girl Harry ends up with kind of looks like?
Oh yeah, no, I realized that, and oh boy,
shit right there.
Yeah, it's creepy as fuck. Thanks, Rowling.
he might need therapy, and after that need to get a divorce. I don't know.
Thanks for giving us one big happy Weasley family, Rowling.
Yeah.
When you
I mean,
knew it was
honestly,
bullshit.
it's much more explicit in the movies than in the books. Like in the books, they basically both have red hair and that's it. But in the movies, it's just kind of like, unfortunate casting, I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
So the second love triangle in Song of Ice and Fire was Robert Baratheon, Lyanna Stark, and Rhaegar Targaryen. That went
Which is
poorly.
a textbook case of love ruining the realm.
Yeah.
This is why you don't let your dick make policy decisions.
Men in fiction really need to stop thinking with their dick.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, you need to write problems to solve problems.
I mean, that is something of an issue with, fiction. So many of these writers can't think of a good way to create a problem for a character. And when it's male, they invariably just go, he's gonna think with his dick. That'll get him into some problems we can write him out of.
Probably just a little
Look,
head.
sometimes it is in character, and sometimes it is very much not in character.
Mm-hmm.
Oh shit! We didn't talk about one of the most iconic love triangles of all time.
Oh.
Arthurian lore.
Oh
boy.
yeah.
Arthur, Guinevere, and Lancelot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The OG love triangle, as it were.
I was gonna say, if you want to go into that, like, most old myths have some variation of that.
I know, but it's like the one that's one of the most iconic ones from
definitely.
myth and legend.
Yeah, definitely.
Shame that leads to a bloody civil war that ends with
What can you do,
Arthur
right?
dying horribly to his own son.
Oh, there was back to YA actually. There was this adaptation of Arthurian legend from a German author that I read when I was 14, 15-ish. And pretty fun actually. And that Lancelot is basically a Power Ranger. Like, he's just some kid and he finds this magical suit of armor, and when he puts it on, he basically becomes Lancelot, and the sword is cursed and it's great. He has basically, like, his sword is like a dark version of Excalibur or something. Cool books actually. I should reread those. But they obviously super go into the love triangle and also make it super uncomfortable because, basically everyone is ageless, but also King Arthur is like an old guy, and Lancelot and Guinevere are like 15.
Mm-hmm.
And
Ooh, that does.
I mean, technically, all of them are like 100 and older, but that's how they appear, and that's always like, oh well, what can you do? I mean, it doesn't go super into that, but it's just kind of implied. But that is one of the many adaptations of Arthurian legend, and of course, it basically rests entirely on the love triangle because, of course, by the end of the first, second, and third book, each time Lancelot and Arthur fight, and that is, of course, what they fight over.
Mm-hmm. Naturally. A lot of TV shows, honestly, like Merlin also adapted that, though that Merlin didn't really have Lancelot be that big of a presence.
I would argue that
Or
the love triangle, instead of having Lancelot in there, was actually Merlin in there.
Yeah, that tracks, especially since Merlin does have a lot of chemistry with Arthur.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, many things don't really go into the Lancelot Guinevere Arthur thing because it's kind of complicated, because one of the good guys isn't that good, and I mean, not complicated in how it's set it up and stuff. Just it's morally complicated. Like in a TV show, you want very clear good guys and bad guys, and having that going on is kind of like, shit, that's internal politics. Fuck.
I mean, if we're talking about TV shows of moral complications and love triangles, hard enough to talk about Lost.
True.
Because Lost is like one of the big dramatic plot lines is that big central love triangle with Jack, Kate, and Sawyer. Oh, that got so tiresome after the first couple seasons.
I never watched Lost, so
Honestly, it's not that bad of a show. It holds up a lot better than a lot of other shows that I've
Yeah, I
watched.
I've never seen it either, but my father absolutely loves it.
Honestly, like I feel like it gets a lot more flack than it deserves, especially in light of Game of Thrones crashing and burning.
I mean, it from what I know about Lost, it had a bad ending, and shows
The
with
ending
bad
was not
endings.
actually that bad, just
Well,
confusing.
let's say it didn't have a great ending, and
Mm.
if there's a big quality dip between the bulk of a show and how it ended, then the show usually will be remembered as a bad show.
Yeah, honestly, I don't feel like Lost had a particularly bad ending. Just the ending was fairly confusing and abstract.
I
I
mean,
feel like the ending
wasn't
was a
the
lot better
problem
than it.
with Lost that it basically was a mystery box and they always said they had solutions for everything, and in the end it just turned out they didn't?
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was a big
that
problem.
kind of
A
sucks.
lot of times they did pull stuff out of their ass, but I felt like the conclusion was poetic enough and interesting enough that it wasn't like all out terrible like some people say it is. That said, the love triangle stuff in Lost was tiresome as fuck,
mm.
especially since there's so much of it. But like, I am glad that they moved past it eventually.
uh, the the King Arthur stuff remind me, just returning to anime for a second, Seven Deadly Sins with Barn, Elaine, and Jericho was her name.
Jericho, yes,
Yeah,
Jericho. Look, almost all the romances in Seven Deadly Sins are really weird,
yeah, they really are.
especially since all like over half of them involve one person who looks way too young to be in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Like Elaine looks 12, and King looks maybe a year older than that.
Yeah. Not to mention the whole creepiness of Meliodas being in
Mel,
love with a girl that he literally saw grow up.
yeah, no, that's creepy.
I hate that. I hate that so much.
We
Like
all do.
that keeps happening, and it's always weird. Like I've never seen that done in and be anything other than weird.
Again,
Even if
not
it's not
I.
even if it's not outright predatory, like it's
Yeah, I mean,
again, it's
Yep.
weird, but it's conceivable for someone like for people who are just 10, 15 years away from each other age-wise to fall in love when
oh,
both of them are
they are more
perfectly
than
consenting adults and everything.
they are
But it's
more
so
than
weird.
they are more than 10 or 15 years apart.
See, the
I mean,
thing is with Meliodas and Elizabeth is that Meliodas is thousands of years old, and he's been in love with Elizabeth the whole time. The problem is she
see,
just
that's
keeps
weird.
reincarnating,
Oh,
so they're not on equal footing.
that's unfortunate. Yeah.
So, in the at the start of the series, Meliodas is 3,000 ish years old.
Hmm.
Elizabeth is 16.
Yep.
Unfortunate. And I mean, that's another thing. Like, I get it with I mean, at that point, 3,000 years, you're essentially ageless. And at some
Look, once you
point,
start counting your age in the triple digits,
yeah,
and the age differences between you stop to matter
yeah,
if
exactly.
if you're both triple
I
digit plus.
I get that. Like, I get if you have a character that's essentially ageless and you want to do romance, then on some level, the reader will just have to ignore that weirdness. Like, there's always gonna be an imbalance with someone who's just 1,000 years older than you. That's just gonna be it.
Hmm.
But they always do some shit like that to make it extra weird.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, Seven Deadly Sins is just weird.
yeah.
So weird.
So a few more I want to bring up. Basically, one I mentioned earlier, and a few notable permutations of that one. Uh, and with earlier, I mean at the start. Of course, the quintessential two-person love triangle: Clark Kent, Superman, Lois Lane.
Yep.
Uh, which is honestly in itself interesting because again,
Hmm.
it's one of these when it gets resolved, and I mean, by this point, it has been resolved in basically any media you can imagine. Uh, those two characters will have to deal with that in some way. There will have to be a talk about what has been going on and what is going on. And that is why that is basically the template for all love triangles or relationships between main characters and their main love interest in superhero comics.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the more interesting permutations is Batman and Catwoman.
Oh, that's a fun one. I really like that dynamic that
Yeah,
they have, especially once they
because
both is.
because for the longest time they didn't know, and then of course Bruce/Batman knew, but she didn't know. But she was not interested in Bruce Wayne at all. It wasn't even the Lois Lane Clark Kent thing where it's kind of like she kind of is interested in Clark Kent too. She did not give a fuck about Bruce Wayne. And of course, by now it's no longer a love triangle because they both know everything and it's all out in the open. And I don't even know what their status is right now.
But
But
they were engaged to be married at some
I mean,
point in the
yeah, I
comic.
remember that. That was 2 years ago, and in the end, the wedding didn't go through because it was, of course, all marketing. Status quo can never change.
Cowards. Those
Yeah,
fucking
absolutely.
cowards.
Like, I was so angry when I read that. Like, that was such a cop out. But
That's
no,
bullshit.
like that's definitely one of the more interesting permutations of that one, especially because like uh Batman's moral stance is very inflexible by the nature of how the character is usually written today. And Catwoman doesn't fit into that, so that's always an interesting dynamic they have going on.
Mhm. Speaking of
Um
cat being as a superhero comics, there's also Spider-Man and his.
I was gonna bring up Spider-Man next because Spider-Man is the other interesting permutation of the Superman version.
Yeah,
Mm,
him and his relationships with Mary Jane Black Cats.
yes. I mean him and Black Cat is basically Batman and Catwoman.
Basically, it's similar but slightly different.
Yeah. I mean okay, let's say him and Black Cat is Batman and Catwoman in the 90s.
Yes, yes, that tracks.
Um and of course the interesting thing about Black Cat is usually that when she finds out that Spider-Man is Peter Parker, she doesn't get it. Like where Catwoman and Lois Lane consolidate the two people into a person they want to be with, Black Cat does not understand why Spider-Man needs Peter Parker.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why that can never happen, and that's obviously why he ends up with Mary Jane, because she cares more about Peter Parker than about Spider-Man.
We just
Uh,
quickly go on a tangent about how comic editors and the refusal to understand why Mary Jane is popular is why Spider-Man isn't still married to Mary Jane.
that's so fucking. I hate that so much. Like they had the
Comic
character
book
in such a
editors
good place.
can be so awful, and I fucking hate
Mm.
Joe Quesada, and I will
Yeah,
always hate Joe
fucking
Quesada.
Joker is not for that in particular. Like
Yes. I
I
mean, he's
honestly don't even know what
awful
else he's done, but
he's awful in so many
fucking
ways.
yeah.
The one more day bullshit is
One
just
More Day is so dumb.
so
it
awful.
it hurts the character so much.
It hurts.
Um, but until then, until then, I honestly think Spider-Man was always one of the more interesting take on the superhero archetype, just because Peter
Mm-hmm.
Parker doesn't have his life in order. Um, and that extends to the romance. Like the the relationship Clark Kent has with Lois Lane is usually a pretty good one.
Mm-hmm.
Even when they're not in a romantic relationship, just they get along, they have a lot of understanding for each other. But as with everything else, Peter Parker always has to juggle his life. So when he's in a relationship with Mary Jane before she knows he's Spider-Man, then that just becomes part of the problem for him. And that makes that an interesting permutation of the basic superhero love triangle, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Because the difficulty in that one is not what if she finds out I'm Spider-Man, because as with everything else, for Spider-Man would be a lot easier if people just knew he was Spider-Man. But the issue is, shit, I need to put work in, and I don't have time to put the work in.
I mean, we could briefly go into all the variations on what makes a love triangle specifically. But I kind of want to talk about the love dodecahedron variation because
So I was just about to bring this up because I was just looking at the pages for that, and I found Scum's Wish, which I forgot
oh my
was a
god,
thing, and oh boy, does that go some places apparently. So
yeah,
I want to briefly, before we get into it, say again, I truly believe true love dodecahedrons are rarer than people think, just because, again, most harems are star-shaped.
oh, we're
But
not
they
talking
do
about
exist.
harems here. We're talking
Yeah.
about various chains and
Yeah.
intersections.
I know. That's what I mean. Like, many people say, well, if it has many characters, it has to be that, but that's not the case.
No, if it's like a whole-on chain of people with various intersections here and there, that's dodecahedron.
That's what's going on. Yeah.
if there is one singular person that would be in the middle that connects to everyone else, that's a harem.
Yes.
A
dodecahedron has no singular connection to every
Yeah.
single other character.
So yeah, so this.
I mean, they can.
So Scum's Wish is this series where the two main characters are both in love with somebody else, and then decide to date each other to numb the pain of their unrequited loves. Then their unrequited loves fall in love with each other, but actually it turns out one of them is just doing it to hurt the main character.
Naturally.
The female main character Hanabi, who, one of the main character's childhood friends is in love with him. The female main character's best friend is in love with her, and that best friend's cousin is in love with their cousin, I think. It gets weird, apparently. I have only watched the first episode of Scum's Wish, and at the end of it, I'm fairly sure the two main characters have sex while thinking of their unrequited loves. Which, yes, is as weird as it sounds. It's a real weird series and a real. I don't want to say bad because I've not watched enough of it to really say if it's bad or not, but it goes places.
Look, Scum's Wish is a very odd series, but the mangaka behind it is working on a series I absolutely love right now. So,
oh, what's that?
I can't be entire. Oshinoko. Mango Yokoyari is illustrating it. The writer behind it is the author of Kaguya-sama.
Cool.
It's a good series. But yeah, speaking of Kaguya, there is a small, I don't know if it really counts. It's more of a love triangle. Well, that's going into manga stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
I've
I've very specifically not been bringing that up since it is manga stuff.
What we can bring up though is so many other anime, honestly.
And there's plenty of stuff in the fucking anime and manga page for the Love Dodecahedron. Haruhi
Ranma
Suzumiya.
Half came up. Oh yeah, Haruhi. I mean, Ranma Half also came up in there. There's oh dear lord.
Code Geass.
Berserk
Haruhi
also
is that
counts.
complicated?
I mean, Ranma Half, you have outright has a lot of shenaniganry in its lore.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
Berserk
Ranma's
also counts.
basically like a Venn diagram.
Yes. What else is there? There's a lot of stuff in here, but I'm not familiar with most of it.
I mean, a lot of the stuff we've actually
Again, the
already
question
brought
is
up
which ones
part
are
of it.
interesting.
Yeah.
Because if I'm just gonna list things that have more than two people interested in each other, then I can sit here all day. That's not but which ones are interesting to talk about?
I mean, some of these we've already brought up in relation to their main love triangles. I mean, you've already brought
Code
up.
Geass does have a a sort of love triangle,
Hmm.
in that Lelouch is mostly torn between C2 and Callan, but he's mostly just celibate for pretty much the entire series. I
Yeah.
don't think he's really explicitly shown any interest for most of the series in anyone.
There's as I said, there's stuff we've already brought up. There's Full Metal Panic. What other ones did we bring up? Telovru. Did we ever bring up Telovru?
Lover is mostly a harem. Like, there's a couple of complications here and there, but it's mostly a harem.
Toradora.
Toradora counts.
Utena. I don't remember enough from Siren to say if that actually had a dodecahedron. It did not leave that much of an impact beyond the fact that it got brutally axed.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Well, that was an axing that was more brutal than most, honestly. So that managed to go for 145 chapters before being axed.
Yeah. Oh, you know what we could bring up is Darling in the Franxx.
Oh, God.
I'd rather we would. I dropped the show for 3 episodes or something.
Yes, I understand.
It was deeply uncomfortable.
Wait, most of the characters involved
robots.
Most of the characters involved have no knowledge of sex or romantic love when they're fucking piloting doggy-style robots? What the fuck?
Yes! Yes! That is correct.
Look, I will give Darling in the Franxx credit for having characters who are actually, actually LGBT and taken somewhat seriously by the narrative. Like, of the main pilots, 2 of them are queer, which is more representation than you see in 90% of anime.
Why is it that so much of representation happens in the bad anime?
Because it hurts people.
They don't care if they write it terribly.
Yes.
Wait, I could go through my dropped list and see if there's anything interesting.
Oh God.
Unfortunately,
look, of the main cast,
honestly, I don't.
Darling in the Franxx, only 2 of them are not involved in this tangled mess of love shenaniganry.
I honestly didn't see enough of Darling in the Franxx. I watched 3 episodes max.
Yeah.
All right. Darling in the Franxx. Yep, 3 episodes.
I mean, we are past 2 hours now, so we could just say there are a lot of terrible anime and manga love triangles, dodecahedrons, and attempted polyamorous relationships.
We've mostly stuck to anime and manga, haven't we?
There's a lot of fodder there.
True. We have dipped our toes into other mediums a bit.
I mean, we could. I mean, the issue with talking about it in live action TV is it's so prevalent in live action TV, and it's so badly done most of the time.
Like in all soap operas, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and again, sitcoms. That's basically the one bit of drama they have.
Yeah, sitcoms use it so much. They use it about as much as young adult novels, honestly.
Will they or won't they? And everyone fucks everyone.
Yeah.
That's just kind of what they do.
Look, I will die on the hill that How I Met Your Mother is simultaneously one of the best and worst examples of this.
I would agree with that.
Most of the show was pretty damn fun, but the show ended so catastrophically badly.
The ending was so terrible.
I mean,
was almost universally hated.
Yeah, I mean, and why wouldn't it be?
I mean,
the worst thing about that ending was that it was very obviously the ending they actually wanted to do. It wasn't even a network note or anything. It was just bad.
See, the thing is with that is that they had planned it out around season 2, But
Yeah.
unfortunately, the character development and stuff had long since passed that, and
Yep.
they were stuck with the ending because they had recorded it with the child actors who had long
Yeah,
since
yeah.
aged out of that,
That's the
Mhm.
thing.
being able to
But
change the lines.
but honestly, you cannot tell me that there wasn't an option to just do it differently if they had
Oh,
wanted to, but they
there
didn't
was
want
the option, and the whole on recorded an alternate ending that they
to. Mm.
probably should have gone with. But no.
That was a terrible ending to honestly until that very weak, very beloved show.
Yeah.
I mean, what they should have done is, knowing that this, that fucking that they would be, recording this ending ahead of time. They should have just picked a, character from the show and stuck with it.
Oh, if only.
But I mean, even then, you can't really do that when you have 8 more seasons ahead of you. You cannot plan out 8 seasons of character development. Not if you have like 1 year to do it.
Not to mention, like, TV, live action TV, especially in America, is like really fickle with renewals, unless it's like a
Yeah,
proven day.
that's the thing. Like they could have maybe done it if it had ended after 5 seasons. Because like I think somewhere around season 5 is in general in TV is kind of the sweet spot from what you can plan.
Mm-hmm.
Because like when you pitch your show, you pitch 1 season, and if it gets picked up, you work on a plan to do 3 because that's like an easy to handle time frame, and then you can see 2 more seasons. But that's kind of it. Everything that goes longer than 5 seasons has to fly by the seat of its pants at some point.
Basically, like Supernatural.
Yeah. Oh God, Supernatural. Is there any
You
love
want to bring up
triangles in there?
Supernatural?
Is there any love triangles in there we want to bring up?
Not really. It's mostly girl delete stuff, unless you count Castiel and Dean as a thing. Which is a whole lot of debating that we already talked about.
Yeah. I mean, just going through the live action love triangle page, the one that has grabbed my attention is Hannibal.
Oh God.
And it starts off relatively normal for a series about, a cannibalistic serial killer, which has main character Will crushing on female character, who is also spending time with, the titular Hannibal. Season 2 continues that, except now it's become a full actual love triangle in that Hannibal is now also going after Will. And then it just completely becomes a love triangle, in that there's a new female character introduced. They sort of get along, and then at the end of the series, spoilers for the end of Hannibal. It ends up with Will and Hannibal together as they eat the female participants' legs.
What the fuck?
That's Hannibal for you.
What the fuck?
Yeah. It got weird, apparently. I had to stop watching because I was struggling to understand Mads Mikkelsen's accent, and the subtitles for it were terrible.
Jesus Christ.
But yeah, apparently the show got real weird. Real weird.
What the
I mean, if
actual...
you want to get into live action romance subplots that sometimes are triangle shaped, Smallville is great. That was definitely a show.
Didn't one of the cast members, didn't one of the cast members turn out to be a member of a cult?
Yeah, I mean, kind of. I mean, yes, essentially yes. But I think that was also more headline than anything else, because generally when I read something like that, I assume that person just got scammed, and whoever scammed them also scammed enough other people to call it a cult. But basically, yes. But I mean, essentially, they obviously, as a Superman show, they did basically every take on person with secret identity romance they could do. Ran for 10 seasons, so there's nothing in it they didn't do at some point.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, we are,
Oh yeah,
Oh,
that most of the time.
could we include Kingdom Hearts in this love triangle stuff?
I am not Kingdom Hearts. Go ham.
I mean, yes. I don't know. I mean, at this point, does Kyrie really still have a place in the relationship between Sora and Riku?
I mean, obviously not, but the series wanted to push it at one point.
Yeah, they're still trying to, but let's be real here.
Well, let's be real here.
The shippers are gonna do what the shippers are gonna do.
Look, slash pairings are a tradition as old as time itself.
I was gonna say, when fan fiction writers see two boys in a show, you know what's gonna happen.
Oh, I mean, we should also talk about Final Fantasy
honestly,
VII.
I don't.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So I said Cloud's getting in the way of Tifa and Eric's relationship.
One thing I want to say about Kingdom Hearts is that I honestly don't really count it as a love triangle, just because, I mean, yes, there is kind of romance in that, but Kingdom Hearts doesn't give a shit about the romance.
And Kingdom Hearts doesn't give a shit about Kyrie.
I mean, it doesn't give a shit about most things as long as it's weird. But no, I think, like, as I said, of course, there's technically romance there, but I think at that point you're kind of doing every party of this discussion or of this categorization a disservice, because, like, no one plays Kingdom Hearts for the romance, and no one, like, if someone told me they wanted an interesting relationship between three people, I wouldn't say play Kingdom Hearts. Like, I would, like, that's not what you go to Kingdom Hearts for.
Yeah.
I very much doubt there's anyone who's playing Kingdom Hearts for the thrilling romantic entanglement between Sora, Riku, and Kairi.
I mean, it's just...
Or Roxas, Axel, and Xeon.
Yeah, just not the point. Like, it's not...
Yeah. Final Fantasy VII, on the other hand, has, like, this whole thing between Cloud, Tifa, and Eric that...
Yeah. It does.
Yeah,
and I mean...
the funny thing is, like, apparently...
And Zack. Like, you need to mention Zack in this equation, because...
I mean, apparently after a lot of people started shipping Tifa and Eric together, which is, like, okay, I'm cool with that.
I'm okay. Yeah, I mean, but but that's mostly... I mean, God, at some point I'm going to talk about the fucking Final Fantasy VII remake, but that's not today.
Today is not that day.
No. Me talking about that is like Pokemon fans talking about new Pokemon games. Just no one wins when it happens. No, but yeah, the love triangle in FF7 is actually more kind of a square, because there is technically a fourth person in there.
I mean, to be fair, I don't think Tifa has any real relationship with Zack of any kind.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
it's mostly just a love chain.
Yeah, it's more of a love chain. I mean, Tifa knows Zack, but no, there's no romance there. And there also isn't. Yeah, and they're also. I mean, they kind of know each other from back in the day, but not very well. Yeah, Zack was just happened to be there on the worst day of Tifa's life. But yeah, it's. But the thing is, without Zack, there is no Cloud Aerith without Zack at all.
Mm.
Because she says that. She says, like, in a... I don't know, I don't remember if that scene is in the remake, but in the original game, she says Cloud reminds her of her ex, and that's Zack. And Cloud, obviously, at that point, is basically emulating Zack, so, you know... it's not a stretch to say that that's why she's interested in Cloud. It obviously changes like over time because she gets to know actual Cloud, and but again, without Zack, there's not much there. And I think in the end, that's what puts the nail in. I mean, I also just ship Cloud and Tifa, so I obviously read it in a way that I agree with. But I think in the end, that puts the nail in it, that Aerith is not interested in Cloud actually, and also Cloud is not emotionally at a point where he could have a relationship with Aerith by the time she dies. Spoilers for a 30-year-old game.
Oh God,
What? Aerith died?
25, yeah.
No!
I was gonna say it's not 30 years old. It's
25. Yes, 97 is when it came out.
God, it's 25. God, it's old
Yes.
as me.
It is
nearly
almost as old as.
I hate all of you.
I'm sorry, Lord. I'm sorry.
Lord, I am
sorry for
26 years
flouting.
old.
I'm sorry for flouting my youth.
No.
I'm also as old as Pokemon.
Yeah. What can I say?
I keep forgetting that you're the same age as my brother.
Well, I'm young at heart, apparently. No, but like that's the thing about the FF7 love triangle. That it's definitely there, and it's probably one of the selling points. Like it's probably one of the points of FF7 of why people still care about it, because again, easy emotional investment. But I think that one basically resolves itself rather elegantly. Because
You
again,
called the killing of one of the participants elegant.
No, that's not the elegant part. The elegant part is that Cloud and Tifa do genuinely end up together, and that's not like some post-game canon shit. Like there's a scene in the game towards the end where everyone goes off to do their thing, like because the world's gonna end. Do you get your shit together? And if you don't want to come back, that's fine. But of course, everyone comes back. But Tifa explicitly stays behind with Cloud, and that's as explicit as a Final Fantasy game will ever get. And like they do have a scene where they essentially talk about their relationship. So that's the actual elegant resolution. It's just that, Aerith is in fact taken out of the picture by the plot.
Well, I think
Sucks to be her.
yeah, I think we should probably call it a day now. We've been going for a while, over 2 hours, and I think we've discussed about as many big love polygons as we can. I certainly can't think of any off the top of my head.
Yeah, at least again, not any I think are particularly interesting to talk about.
So that is the end of the stream. In terms of future stuff, tomorrow will be more D&D. Kado has said that he what was his exact words? Has a brilliant idea for the next session that he is sure we will like, and then said when I posted the concerned GIF, he said how appropriate. So we're currently quite fearful.
I mean, he did say it would be 4 hours long, so maybe it'll be good.
He can kill us in 3.5 hours, I'm sure. So that's tomorrow. Tuesday will be something. I'll be there. I can't guarantee anybody else's attendance. And then Thursday will be more Ace Attorney. We finally... Actually, no, it's not going to be Ace Attorney, is it? We're going to be taking a short break between the two games because we finally finished the first game.
Woohoo!
And then next Saturday it is Marvel Phase 3 Part 2, which in terms of the actual movies, think we covered up to, what was it, Black Panther?
Yes. So this one is, I believe,
Infinity
Infinity War
War.
through Spider-Man Far From Home.
Yeah, Infinity War, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Captain Marvel, Endgame, and Far From Home. So not much to discuss there. Otherwise, as always, thank you for watching. We hope you have enjoyed yourselves, and will join us tomorrow for more D&D, and good night.
Good night.